Hello, people. Welcome. I'm glad you guys showed up today, and I'd like to welcome Jeff. Jeff, how you doing today?
Pretty good, Lee. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you having me come on.
Is that you dragging or me dragging?
I think that's you, Lee. You've had last couple of times I've been on. I think your internet's a little laggy.
I changed my internet company 3 times now, and it seems like every time I change it, it doesn't help too much.
You got to
But
get
anyway, we'll do the best.
You got to get your Ethernet cable and take it from your router into your computer.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I have no choice.
You're using Wi-Fi, which is can be problematic.
Well, so what's going on with you? What you been doing?
Man, just doing my shows. My podcast came out today. I did an episode on Gotti Jr. I've just been doing my YouTube stuff as well. So, you asked me to come on. I know you've been doing some good shows lately on different things. And, anytime I could be of service, I'll come on. Hey, Lee, maybe go out and come back in.
I'll just hang around a little bit and see if it gets any stronger. But what I wanted to mention to you is, so you did a show on John Jr. What was it about?
Well, on our podcast, we really just do a biography. We talk about the person's life. We really got into the crux of John as a boss, as he took over from Senior. We went into some of the Sliwa stuff. We also went into the Bobby Borriello hit and the ineffectiveness of John as a boss to do anything about that. Now, I want to make this clear. I felt like the government was really on a crusade against John Jr., and it's pretty evident. If you know anything about John, the cases that were brought against him had very few legs. There were no witnesses, nor was there any comparable evidence. So we did a little bit of everything, but we really talked about John's life as opposed to Dad, who we did a show on as well. But John is an intelligent guy. I think as a boss, I think he was a little green around the gills, but we thought it was a good show.
All right, that sounds like an interesting boss. He had his positives and his negatives, like the boss, and he had some big shoes to fit. Well, I wanted to talk to you about the UVA'S, and for anybody, and you hearing me okay right now?
No, you're going in and out. Lee, here's what I would do. Go out and come back in and maybe close down some of the windows you have.
Okay, well, listen, they're all closed, right? I'm going to try to close these. Okay. This is something that I'm definitely going to work on tonight. I'm not going to do this anymore like this. Are you hearing me okay right now?
It's a little better now, actually.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to ask you. So you're pretty. There's 2 movies on Netflix about the UVA'S. Both of them are kind of accurate. They have some scenes that just aren't correct. And so when I asked you about this, you pretty much said that you knew a lot about this. And what do you mean by that? I mean, did you do a show on this?
We did. We did a show on Rosemarie and Thomas Uva. We actually did a show on an individual called Dominic Pizzonia. Dominic Pizzonia was one of the hitters in this hit, as far as the federal government's concerned. He was actually found not guilty, though, of this hit. The other individual was indicted as well, Trucchio, Ronny One-Arm Trucchio. We have to understand that the Uvas were not mob connected. Rosemarie Uva was from the Ozone Park area. She would meet Tom Uva. They were actually 2 people that were drug addicts at one point. Thomas Uva went into prison. They both actually did prison time, both the Uvas. They would meet through random circumstance and ultimately fall in love, and that's shown in the film. The Wannabe's terrific. That's, I think, my favorite version of the
Dominic.
Yeah, that's Dom Pizzonia there.
This is Dom. And he's out of jail now. He's a free man.
Yeah, so Dom Pizzonia has been around a long time. He was actually made at the same ceremony as Junior Gotti and Bobby Borriello back on Christmas Eve in the late 80s. And Dom Pizzonia really was a guy that had been around for a long time. He's actually, a lot of people don't know this, Lee, Dominic Pizzoni is illiterate. He cannot read, but he is very good at being in the mob. He's a terrific hitter. He was involved for many years. He's actually a very good cook, from what I understand. He would actually cook at the Bergen Hunt and Fish Club and at the Ravenite. And
Hey, Joe, what's up?
I didn't get it. You got to put it in the chat.
Okay, I got it. Bye. Okay,
Dom
I'm sorry
Pizzoni
about
actually
that.
Dom had a social club, and these two actually went around and started robbing mob social clubs. And Dom Pizzoni took some heat because his club was actually robbed twice. He went to the upper management and basically said, we got to do something about this. They were hitting clubs all around. They hit Jimmy Falia's club. They hit a couple other people's clubs. And it was very simple. They basically, Rosemary would drive up, Tom would get out. He'd walk in and demand everybody give out their money. And he assumed that they're not going to go to the cops. This is a perfect thing to do. And they made off with a ton of money.
And here's the clubs they hit. They hit the Veterans Friends Club.
Which is Jimmy Falia's
on 86.
Yep, Jimmy Falia. Yep.
And then they hit two on Bath Avenue, and one was a Bonanno, and one was Sparrow's Club.
Yes, it was.
And I believe they hit Sparrow's Club twice.
Well, they hit Spears Club actually once. They hit Pizzonia twice.
They hit Pizzonia.
Club. Yeah. And Pizzonia took, I think, definitely a lot more heat because, look, you can rob someone twice or once. You rob them twice, then you have a real problem. So, yeah, this was a big thing. And, look, it was brazen to go out and rob mob social clubs. It was brilliant, although it was stupid as well.
Hello.
And he was in the back there. Hey, Joe, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. And they were embarrassing them, too, when they were robbing them. Is that correct?
Yeah, there was a situation. It was never truly substantiated. There was a situation at one point where Thomas and Rosemarie became very arrogant and started demanding that they take down their pants and things of that nature, which it was said that actually happened at one of the clubs. I don't know how valid it is, but there was some embarrassment going around. These two nobodies are robbing us. We need to do something about this. And it wasn't happening to nobodies. These guys that they were robbing were high ups, particularly Falia, Spiro. These were higher ups. And, you know, at one point, the mob just, as they do, said, we're done dealing with this. And, you know, Dom Pizzonia took it personal and I think was kind of the leader in taking these two down.
Now, when they did this, from what I understand, he was a court junkie, and he was going to court when Sammy Gravano was on trial. And Sammy Gravano's the one that said that they never have guns inside these places because you don't want to put a bunch of crazy men in social clubs with guns if a fight breaks out.
Yeah,
so
I think
you weren't
that's
allowed
been
to bring guns in.
I think from what I understand, that's always been a norm inside social clubs. You're not going to have a ton of weapons. It's not going to be. Plus, if the feds burst in, that's another charge you got to take. So, yeah, they listen. The UVA'S definitely I think as low level as they were definitely smart in kind of staking this out and doing what they did. But ultimately, it was you screwed around too many times.
So here they are. They're robbing these clubs. They're embarrassing them. And so they have to get to them. And they go forward. Then they contact a newspaper reporter. Is that right?
Yeah, again, that's something that I think the movies kind of illustrate. I think Pablo Guzman, who was in New York at the time, he was acted out in the film. The court stuff and the contacting the reporter, I don't know how valid that is. That's incredibly brazen to go out and just kind of say, you know what, we're here, come do something about it. I don't think that's quite how it went down. I think it was really just they needed money. They didn't have a job or a job that they were fine with. Remember, as I said, these are both felons, right? They had trouble getting work. Rosemarie Uva would actually get a job at a credit agency, and she would actually get Tom hired. But, they wanted more out of life. They weren't making any money. And I think they kind of looked around and said, the 80s are a big time. Let's go and do something about this. And, yeah, as far as the validity of them going to the papers, I don't know how true that is. But yeah, I really didn't think they even needed to. It was easy to piece as this went on that, hey, these people not only are doing this, but Lee, they actually lived in the neighborhood. They lived in that neighborhood and were robbing stuff in that neighborhood. So it was brazen as hell.
And when they robbed the last club, it was like near their home.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they were
And
they
so-
were doing stuff right in Brooklyn, Ozone Park, that vicinity. And if you know anything about the mob, Joe knows. I mean, where he's originally from. Those are mob strongholds. Bay 8th, Bay 13th, all these different Bensons, all these different places. So, yeah, not ideal, but they didn't care. They needed money, and they went and did what they had to do.
They only lasted 7 months, though.
Right. Wasn't long. Wasn't long.
So, yeah. But as far as wise guys having guns in social clubs, yeah, trust me, they have them in there. It's just that club, the clubs they were hitting were not, like you said, they were older men. And because what would have happened if they would have went back? Well, it did happen. They got killed in Queens, basically. So they were looking for them. You know what I mean? It's not a matter of taking it personal. The bosses agreed we got to get these guys, and that was it. So, because it's like anything else with those guys.
Yeah.
That's why I say when people say mob guys don't deal drugs, look, a mob guy is an egomaniac. Anything to do with money in his neighborhood, he has to get a piece of or control. It's his right to do so. So, the first club those guys, or the girl and the guy robbed, they were on the fucking hot list already at that point. But robbing a social club was not very, very smart.
And keep in mind, this also would set up, Pizzonia was furious about this, right? Because again, he was the one that was targeted twice. And remember, the Bonanno crime family was pissed off at this as well. Joey Messino, they wanted this group dead as well. And I think it really was a kind of a prize to figure out who was going to be the first to get to these two. And Pizzonia quickly located them. And on December 24th, 1992, as they sat at Woodhaven Boulevard, they were blown away. And it was pretty simple. They didn't need any go-aheads.
And here's the most amazing thing when they blew them away. The leg came off the car and it actually rolled 4 blocks.
Yeah,
4 straight blocks, and then it hit a car and then it went into a wall. But also, this whole thing, did you know that they captured John Gotti telling an inmate in a prison meeting? Basically, it captured John Gotti telling an inmate about the killings of the Uvas and mentioning an earlier Uva-centered discussion he had in Manhattan with his imprisoned father.
From what I understand, and this came out in the Joe Messino testimony, Joey Messino claims that he was told by his underlings that they took care of it. The Bonannos took care of it. When in fact they didn't. Junior, it was said that he told Joe Messino, it was our people that took care of it. And there was just kind of some, because the Bonannos took credit for this initially. But, I know that in the testimony that Joe, and again, whether you believe Joe Messino's testimony, he made it clear that there was a lot of inner strife on who was going to get to these guys. And from what he says, Junior claimed that it was our people that did it.
As a matter of fact, Junior was kind of
Still
pissed
away at the time,
Junior was kind of pissed at that time that they were taking credit for that. Am I correct?
From what I understand, underlings, I think it was Vinny Basciano and someone else were taking credit for it. Now, Messino, I'm sure he didn't want that heat, so I don't think he made anyone go do anything. But I think they took credit for it, and that's something that can be readily accessible and found.
Yeah, and the funny thing is when they shot them, they were very accurate. They hit them both 3 times with headshots. I mean, it's not like, they were dead before they even knew it. And when they killed them, they found $1,000 on the girl. That was all they had left, $1,000. Yeah. So they were going to go out and do this again. It was obvious.
We have to remember, these are not these two were not mobsters, right? I don't know if they were probably even expecting it. They probably thought, no one's going to get to us. We're untouchable. They're sitting in a car, and before they know it, I mean, those guys that were involved in this were high-end hitters, and they were going to do it quickly and simply.
Yeah, hey, Tom, I'm going to drop a link for you if you want to jump in. I want to talk to you about your little thing yesterday. So I just threw a link there for Tom if he wants to jump in.
Tom is a little under the weather, so, but he should at least come on with an avatar. I mean, he should start doing the avatar from here on out. because I think when he's on, when he shows his face, it scares women and children. So we gotta cut down on the viewership. You know what I mean?
Well, not everybody can be as good looking as you, Joe.
Right. Good point.
And let me tell you, someone has a forget it.
No, tell us.
He can come on. Great. Thanks, Tom. I asked you to come on my show. You told me you were sick. Now you come on his show. Boy, I got a bone to pick with you, man.
Lee moves the needle.
I was in the back room, and their name is Lee has a small penis. So let me get them out of here. Yeah, so that must be an ex of mine. But anyway, okay, so let's get back to these people. So the Uvas get killed. Now, is it true that when they went to the woman's house after they got killed, they found a book? It was like a little black book that one of the mobsters had. And that book led to a bunch of arrests and something else. Now, and other stuff. What do you know about that?
I don't know if I don't believe there's any validity to that, as far as I know. I
read it in several stories.
Yeah, it could be. I think, and if Joe's seen the film, I think a lot of it was, look, that's what you have to remember about films, like whether it's The Irishman or this film or any, they're not completely valid, right? They're going to add things in for effect. I think it made good. And one of the reasons I like The Wannabe a lot, the one with Vincent Piazza, I think he's a great actor, first of all, but I think they really kind of accentuated who they are. As far as the book of names, I don't know if that's valid or not.
So, Jeff, I got some. I'm going to bring Tom in right now. Ask him. Here's the time to do it. But let me bring him in. Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Hanging in there, guys. How are you guys?
Good. How you doing?
Yeah. So, did you see the interview yesterday with Sammy and Tom?
I did.
Yes.
I thought it was well done. I think Tom always has an interesting way of doing his interviews. He's very business minded. I actually thought the questions were kind of interesting. I thought the question about going back to his earlier self, I've always found that interesting. Look, I have no love lost with Sammy Gravano. I've made that clear multiple times. Do I think he's an interesting guy? Fuck yeah, I think he's an interesting guy. So yeah, good for Tom. Good for getting that, and I thought it was good for sure.
Cool, Jeff.
So, Tom, how long were you working on getting that interview?
It was something that I always kind of had in the works. I think I've been pretty upfront. I have a relationship with Karen. She was on the show. I'm pretty friendly with the daughter, and it was just really a matter of timing. So what happened was after Christmas, some of you guys know, I took a little break. I maybe did 1 or 2 shows, and I took a little break. And I said, you know what? I want to kind of relax a little bit, and I want to kind of reset the show a little bit because I think things are getting out of hand. I'm like, how can I take a break but come back really strong? So I'm like, you know what? Cash in some favors, and hence the interview.
And did you get it like on the same day when they arranged it, or did you have a couple days to work on it?
Oh no, there was about 2-3 week ramp up. They're very professional. He has like a full team. We work closely with Gerard, Charlotte, and his team, and we were going to do it one day, but we had to cancel, so we moved to the next. And I was not well. I'm still not well, but I'm like, you know what? I don't, you know how these things work, So I'm like, let me lock this in. Let me get it done.
I'm going to ask you a crazy question. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to. Did you have to pay him?
Put it this way: I could say net it cost me $0. That I can tell you.
Good for you. I had a funny feeling that was the case because I knew that you knew people. Now, Jeff, I'm going to ask you a question. Would you take that interview?
Yes, I would have 2 requirements, though. At least for me personally, I would prefer to interview him in person. I would pay my way and go down there and speak to him. Yeah, I definitely would. I think the problem for me in just interviewing him is, and I know Tom, and this is why it's good that Tom interviewed him. Tom took the interview a different way than I think most people take it with him. And I think Sammy's really interesting on channels that maybe the audience doesn't know a ton about the mob. I don't know how good Sammy, at least me interviewing him, would be, just because I'm not going to say I know everything about him, but like I've heard most of that stuff already. I think my audience has as well. So I think Tom took it in a different way that I wouldn't take it. And I think that's what made it unique. Would I interview him? Yeah, I would have to ask for two things: it in person, and he'd be willing to answer whatever question I throw to him, which whether he does or not, I don't know. But I think I would. Would it be something that would benefit me? Sure. I just feel like most of my audience, like most of the people in your chat, Lee, have heard his stories. Tom took it in an arena where he was asking business questions, which we haven't really heard from Sammy.
Why would why would it have to be in person, Jeff?
I just feel like when you do interviews like that, I think it's just best like that. And I actually, in a way, would probably fit it a little different. I would actually try to get to know him as a human being a little bit. You know, does he like sports?
You probably wouldn't want to interview him after you got to know him. That's the problem.
Yeah, but I would want to do it off the top, just like kind of ice break and that kind of thing. For me, though, I think it would be, I think interviews can go certain ways when people are there. Maybe we get some sort of viral moment, which, you know, I'm always looking for when I do something. So, yeah, I just feel like it would be something I'd want to speak to them in person with. I think we'd get a better feel maybe. But
So Tom, what do you think about what Jeff has said?
Well, there's a few things. I mean, to be candid, I probably could have did it in person. Obviously, require flying out there,
right?
And you know, the expense doesn't scare me or etc. I just have a pretty full family home situation, so I don't know if that would fly. So that was something I thought of. I said it'd be more impactful to, you know, go down there, do it in person. Maybe, you know, maybe if somehow he like put me on his platform as part of it, if that was worked out, and would do wonders for the show and exposure. But that part didn't work out. I can tell you a few things though that I do want to share. I really had free reign. They did ask like what kind of questions do you have in general. It was unscripted. It was, you know, being recorded. If I came out with X, Y, and Z, I was welcome to ask. Nothing was out of bounds. I took the angle that I took for two reasons. The one is people know my show. I really love the business aspect of the mob. I look at it like he was the number two man in a $500 million organization, and I wanted to see, you know, how they operated. I want to see what they did. I want to see what he thought of Gotti's leadership style. What was his leadership style? And then the second part is nobody really asked him these kind of questions. You know, people are gonna be like, well, why are you asking him about business? Well, you know, I really wanted to know. And to be honest, those two stories he told about his team and the 2 years and the one from Tato, I got chills, you know?
And let me ask you another question. Did you ever consider asking him the Alan Kaiser question?
Well, so obviously with these type of interviews, which I've experienced with, you know, what is your angle? What are you looking to do? Right. So obviously my platform or my show is probably below the criteria from the Beyond in terms of numbers, right? 9,000, 10,000 subs. We do decent on iTunes, but for the most part, it's not a bigger show, right? So some favors were cashed in, you know. So what you don't want to do is maybe bring up something painful or bring something too controversial. So I did get asked questions privately. Why didn't she ask about that? And I felt like if I come correctly and say, hey, we're going to do a business focused interview, and then ask him about one of his, you know, one of 19 murders, I think that's from a media standpoint to be disingenuous. The second part is people are like, well, why didn't you bring up A-Light? Why didn't you bring up A-Light? Again, I'm fairly friendly with John. I'm friendly with Sammy's family. I'm trying to get out of the drama, guys. I don't know if you noticed. I spend very little time on air. Now I'm sick, so I, you know, kind of can't be on air as much. But I shut down my channel for a minute. I got off air. I watching Vinny's and Joe's shows every night religiously. Joe's new show, congratulations. All you guys' shows actually. Not even in the comments. I just want to reset my mentally, physically. And that's why I don't want to ask this stuff, because I don't want to get into the weeds, you know?
I think that's that's why I think Tom, you know, and I've always said this, like, I think Tom is, if there's anyone similar to me, at least that we do content with, it would be him. Like, I think he understands like how in certain interviews you have to behave a certain way. It's about business at the end of the day. And it's about, look, if it's an interview where all that stuff is in bounds, yeah, you ask about that. But in the interview he did, it was more business driven, and to just kind of spring that, it's. I know a lot of people say, "Well, you were scared to ask it." No, it's just that's not how you do things. You have to be a little bit, kind of honest and upfront of what you're going to do and what it's all.
Hey, D, I'm doing a show right now.
And then also,
call me back. Call me back in 30 minutes.
Also, Lee, the other thing is, and again, I Joe's.
I need 1 second, guys. Hold on. Someone's at my door. Hold on.
Yeah. So, Joe's got his new show. He's going to find his lane. But I think in terms of interviewing, I think Jeff and I have a similar kind of ethos. I think, Lee, you're not too far from it. I'm not the I got you guy. That's not going to be me. If there's something out there, I have no problem asking the tough questions. I have no problem engaging somebody deeper level. I did try some roundabouts. Hey, do you have any regrets? Give us what would the Sammy now tell the 21-year-old Sammy, what didn't I ask you that I did ask about? So, so I kind of put that out there where if he felt comfortable, he would bring it up. So the fact that he did it wasn't something I didn't want to push.
I think Lee also one thing that I'll contend about, and what about Tom I kind of relate to is I think Tom is trying to, and there are some channels they're doing. I see you're doing it, which is great. I don't really talk about John A. Light. I don't really talk about Gene. I don't talk about these guys. So my audience really doesn't want that either. I feel like they want mob content. They want me to ask questions that are valid and make sense. I don't really get into that thing. I feel like if another content creator interviewed Sammy, it'd be a different interview. And that would be somewhere where you would ask that. But as far as for me, I wouldn't really bring it.
And then also Lee, let's just say I throw the A-Light thing out there, his little blood in the water, and Sammy goes on a little diatribe. Shorter, get more views. Sure, is a little bit, sexier. And then A-Light, calls me up. Hey, Tom, what happened? What the F? And he's always welcome to come on, but he may want to come on, then he wants to talk about that. I'm not saying that he would, but and then we're back to where, I saw something really interesting. I don't know if you guys are Jordan.
I'm sorry, Tom. I just got to ask you one question. Yeah. A-Light called you and actually questioned you.
No. I'm saying hypothetically, if I put the blood in the water, and I ask him about A-Light, and let's say Sammy just ties one on and just goes off on A-Light on the show, then A-Light's going to call me up, be like, what's going on? And then he might want to come on and then rebut him a little bit on my show, and then we're just going to kind of circle the drain. You know what I mean? It's like I just guys, I think we can all agree. I just want to move on. I don't know if you guys are Jordan Peterson's fans, but I took this recommendation from him. I was getting really frustrated with a lot of things with the show, and I said, okay, write down 5 things that you need to that you want to work on. 5 problems you have, right? And then get rid of the ones you can't control, and circle the ones you can control, right? So I circle the ones I can't control, and I realized, what can I control? My guest selection. I can control my content, and I can control what comes out of my mouth. So the truth of the matter is, that's what I'm going to do moving forward. I'm not going to comment on other, other creators, and I'm just going to move forward in a positive path.
Well, I agree with you on the John A-Light thing. I think it's played out. We played that card for as long as we can.
Yeah.
I mean, it is time to move on and to bring serious people in here to interview. Correct. And the drama got to stop, and there has to be interviews like we're doing right now. And, that's why I asked Jeff to be on here, because I consider Jeff a serious guy with a serious show. And when you show up, that's just a bonus. As for Joe, that's like, I'm just, hanging out with Joe,
Joe, I don't know if you guys went over and apologize for being tardy. We're all sick here, but I don't want to comment on Gazoo's thing for a second, but Joe did his first show last night. Fantastic numbers. I think he did a peak of 80 streams at once, 80 people for his first stream, and a lot of people cycling through. Great content, great engagement. He had a good group of people on there. I didn't watch the whole time, Joe. As Joe knows, was NyQuil'd up. But for the most part, Joe, I just want to congratulate you on the new show, buddy.
Well, just so you know, Joe had a very successful first. He had a very successful first night. I mean, Joe, you can't beat those figures. You did great,
Agreed.
And for your first night, and it's only going to get better. And I don't know what the hell people see in you, but they like you.
Real quick, I want to comment on Gazoo. I'm a big fan of Gazoo's. So I'm gonna have Karen on. I'm debating, should we do it like, I kind of want it to have Karen and her daughter on, Karina on together. And the reason being is I do want to talk about how that like kind of affected the two generations of, like, I'm sorry, but like when you flip, that's a selfish thing. You have family. I know Ramona and Karen are still very close. And that's tough. Karen, father did what he did. Ramona respectfully, all public information, has family in the life. But she maintained her friendship with her throughout their life, and their adulthood. I might even have both of them on just to talk about it because it's really fascinating to me,
Hold on one second. Is that the real common sense, people? I like to know because I don't want him in
getting
here.
deleted because he's a fucking idiot.
He's a moron. If that's the real common sense, he's lucky that I'm not deleting him altogether. I don't know what's going on there, but the guy,
I will say
This one lounge.
I would say what Tom was just talking about. I'm kind of fascinated by that as well. I mean, I've always felt bad for a lot of the kids of people that are in this life that are not connected to it. I would be interested to know, like, the daughter, the granddaughter, like when she meets a guy, does he know who her grandpa is? How does he react to it? Like, because John Jr. talked about that with his own daughter and some of the problems that he has parenting her. And, the interviewer talks about how, they've heard your last name. They know who you are. I would be interested in hearing about that as well. We don't hear about stuff like that much.
yeah. And the same could be said with the Gotti name. I mean, when you hear that last name, it could be intimidating. That's the reality of it because of who they were.
Well,
what do you think about that?
You know what? That goes away. I mean, it maybe for the first meeting or whatever, but at the end of the day, he's Sammy the Bull, but he's still her dad. So you know what I mean? It's like when I met my father-in-law, I thought I was being interrogated, waterboarded, you know what I mean? I was sweating so much. It was just, but you get over it.
Well, Lee, you bring up a good point. One of the things that fascinates me about Cosa Nostra to me is like an iceberg, and you just kind of see a little bit of it, right? You see a local wise guy, or you see maybe some street people, or maybe the local guy in the neighborhood with the nicest house back in the day. But there's so much like blood and bodies and loneliness and a lot of like crap that like they leave behind. You know what I mean? Like, meaning, I know I've been to Sicily many times, and it's like, they ration the water there, and it's like the local mob guy controls the rationing. So it's like you're like suppressed by like the mafia. It's like crazy shit, So like the true mafia, like the real mafia, is like not good. Like they're not like good people, And there's always like that serendipitous effect of what it does to people in their lives. And I'm kind of really fascinated by that,
Well, here's a question. I'm just going to ask it up point blank, and I don't. Your biggest critic yesterday was Angel Gotti. What do you think about that?
She reached out to me. She reached out to me privately. She would have liked for me to. I was actually surprised that was. I mean, she might have said more publicly. She wanted me to bring up A-Light. As I said earlier, I just didn't think it was the right form for it. Why did she do a show, or was just she just?
Well, she went into Joe's room and kind of was. It was silly stuff. Not Joe's, Vinny's.
I mean, I have to convalesce. I mean, Lee, you know this. I have to convalesce a little bit, but I'm not afraid. I don't know if that's the right word, but I'm not against if somebody wants to. I always say this. People always get on me. Well, what do you want to talk privately? What do you want to talk privately? Number one is, as a man, I want to talk to people privately because I think it's the right thing to do. I don't do things just for views like people think I do. It's the opposite. I shut down my show for 2 weeks. I'm not about views. Or publicly, if you want to do, if Angel says, "Hey, I'd like Tom to come on," I know it probably won't be walking to friendly waters. I'm happy to do so. She has an open invitation on my show. I even told her anybody on her team is invited, including Chris Casproza or anybody she says. I've had Common Sense on before. So I'm not afraid to talk or debate publicly or privately. So when I kind of get my bearings again, I don't want to get into the minutia of drama. But if there's legitimate beef and criticism, I'm happy to address it. You know.
Well,
I've actually-
if you bring common sense on, Tom, that's drama.
I know what I'm saying. I've done in the past, but sorry.
You bring common sense on, you have no common sense. How about that?
I've actually as well told Angel the exact same thing. I asked her to come on my show as well. She called me a weasel and declined. So listen, I have no issue with those folks. I'm going to continue to do what I do. And, you know, as Tom said, I've asked her to come on as well. I have no ill will towards her.
Yeah. And again, listen,
That's
I
a fake
was,
common sense in here. Okay.
and I was fascinated with, and again, you know, it was I was a shorter interview. The reason why it was shorter, whether we like it or not, people like your hour and a half interviews. And you could even ask Lee, at best, you get a 30-minute average watch time. So more than half don't watch
Yes.
after that point. So to me, I'm finding the sweet spot is about the 45-minute mark.
I did the other day. I did Mafia Made. Same thing. I see that you're setting everything up to have Mafia Made on too. Am I correct?
Yeah, I'm gonna bearing knock on wood. I'm gonna be on with him and Carlos. So thank you for expediting that for me, Lee. And the other thing is YouTube cares about two things. I think Jeff has a decent understanding of the algorithm as well. They care about average watch time. So if you have a 45-minute show and it's a 22-minute average, it's going to get pushed out. Number two, they care about click-through rate. So in the first 4 hours, if people click it and they watch it, it gets pushed out. Sammy's videos did about 10,000 views already, and I haven't spent any money to promote it. So it's really about
you're at 10,000 views already on that one.
close to it. Let me check.
Good for you. Yeah. Yep. And so
Tom.
Listen, also remember when it comes to YouTube, okay, this is an important thing that people need to understand about YouTube. And I'm sure Tom will agree. Subs mean very little. Okay. It's about how much they're watching your video. Okay?
Correct.
For instance, I have 1,850 subs and I have videos that get 3,000-4,000 views.
Correct.
That's for me, that is I'm so happy. I couldn't care less about, subs are great, but because those are the ones that watch, but you want people that are engaged with your videos that look at, if it's an 8-minute video, that's what I do. I'm doing like 15 minutes at most.
Yeah.
I want you to listen 9-10 minutes of a 15-minute video. That's a long time. So
when I had Cayucci on the other day, my average watch time for that was 28 minutes, which is huge.
So Lee, what happens is, listen, what does YouTube want? They want to keep you on. Why? They want to serve ads. So if they see that they're going to spend 20 minutes on your show and it's more than half of it, like when you look at your analytics, it says recommended or suggested. Those are the ones that the algorithm does for you. I believe in having the algorithm work for you instead of working for the algorithm. And when you have those numbers, it'll do itself, you know?
People don't realize it. It's like, it's not about the subs. Jeff hit it right on the button. It's about everything else. The subs are nice.
Now, where it works well with the subs is if you have a decent amount of subs, regardless of number, and you release a new show and it gets mopped up quick in the first 4 hours, the subs can do the work for you. But on this show, and I checked the Sammy numbers, it's at 9,600. 57% of the people that watched were not subs. Believe it or not, we're not. So yeah,
oh, really, yeah. You know, Tom, that's one thing that's funny, and I'm going to pose this question for Jeff too. I notice when I check my stats also, so a lot of times I have more non-subs watching than subs. Correct. Why do you think that is? Do you think there's a lot of people out there that just don't like the sub?
I think what happens is, like real quick, like when you initially get someone to watch that's not a sub, they found that through, let's say I look at, one of the most important things I look at is how did people find the video that I did? How did they find it, right? So someone might go on the search bar and type John Gotti, right? And they saw my video. Why they don't sub? I've actually had a pretty good rate of the ones that do, because I think it's all about provoking content and what you're doing. Maybe Tom could answer that, but I think for me, it's just they might see it in the, like I did a video on Teddy Persico, and they dropped it into the recommended videos on the side of like another video, like a related video. That's as wise, I think, but how you title videos, the tags you're putting in, all that stuff is integral into the content that you're putting out.
Exactly.
So, Tom, I'd like to ask you a question. What are these gangsters or informers? who do you think are the most popular ones right now that people want to see on other channels being interviewed?
Well, obviously, you have the stratosphere. You have, Michael, who really became relevant again. I think he starting a wine business. I got to look into that. Francisci Wines. Obviously, Sammy. Outside of those, in terms of who, what's interesting, and I'm going to share who should get more noise. Okay, and I'm going to have him back on. I don't know if you guys know Frank Friedolino. You ever heard of him? So he was an associate, a high-level associate with the Bonannos, and what made him particularly interesting is his mother's best friend was the wife of Gaetano Badalamenti, head of the Pizza Connection. He was very close with Bobby Glasses. He Baldo Amato, he was around Knickerbocker Avenue, Giannini crew. The Giannini crew, wow. and I would probably say Jeff probably knows a little better than me if he knows about it, or maybe Joe. I think they had 20 hitters at their disposal. He was just a really serious guy. He'll be the first to tell you he didn't get his button because he was too crazy. But he's that link of the old and new school and the real hardcore Sicilian. So
one of the most underrated, whether it's the younger group or the older Giannini group. If you know anything about Vito Guzzo,
yes.
Okay, that Giannini group in Queens, I mean, they were the next, hitter group coming up. That's crazy. The Bath Ave crew and the Tango, they all get the
no, Giannini crew is level.
Giannini crew is Guzzo is those kind of guys. I mean, Guzzo's doing 38 years like it's nothing. He's just, those are the kind of guys that are kind of the future, I think, for a lot of people in the early 90s. These are the next guys coming up. But yeah, that's a good one.
How about Tommy Stiggs?
There you go.
Hey, Tom, how you doing?
I don't recognize him with a shirt on. Jeez. You look much.
Oh, what do you? That doesn't sound right, Tom. What are you talking about?
Well, whenever he comes on, he normally has, he normally has no top on, tattoos, the chain. You know what I mean?
You've been driving. You've been driving to New Jersey. You've been driving to New Jersey or something.
Let me jump in on the watchers and the subs. I don't know who's a street guy, who has experience, but I can tell you a lot of street guys are watching. However, they will not sub. Yeah. They basically have a fake name. They will not comment. They just watch. So you're going to get watches more than you're going to get subs. So that's the situation there. Street guys are watching.
Hey, Lee, what about other content providers?
Yes. Everybody in the genre. Anybody that has even a keyword of mob or mafia in it, they're tuning in.
Lee,
that's okay because they're not supposed to be on social media, right?
But really quick. Really quickly, I'm sorry to interrupt. Really quick, on our old show, the NBA Button Man, and there was active people watching, and there's no doubt about it. And obviously, the feds were watching. Obviously, defense attorneys were watching. It's used in Rule 33.
How do I mute this? I got to take this.
Yeah, that show.
1 minute.
Would have 60 to 65% of the people that watch were unsubbed because they don't want us to know that they were watching.
Yeah, and it's funny. There's a couple active guys that are active right now, and they do email me, and they tell me not to mention their names. So out of respect, I don't do it. But I do have good conversations with them. I'm sure you do too, and Jeff, you probably do too.
I've talked to creators that have told me directly. I mean, we've even almost been told, take certain things off, that kind of thing. They're definitely watching. Okay, what the future is of this, I don't know. I'm fascinated by that. I've always said, my goal with this is I want to be the next Capisci. That's my goal in life. I love this stuff. I would love to do that.
Oh, God.
But, and I'm just being real. I love this stuff. But, people like Tommy Stiggs, though, Vinny Bracco, these guys, even Joe, I've always said, we see them.
Even Joe.
No, but Joe,
Joe.
He does content. But I think he's got a fascinating life that we haven't really heard about, like Tommy or Vinny. I think these guys are fascinating in their own right because, look, I lived in South Philly for years. I remember some of the things I saw when I was a young 20s, you know. But I mean, those guys lived in those areas for years. You know, they were part of
Joe.
of the under.
And Joe has it. Joe has it. You know, that it factor. And
yeah, I would love to interview Joe.
You have to have that.
Of like, hey, you know, tell me about your early life. Like, tell me about the things you saw. Tell me about stories. Like, these guys are very fascinating as well. Yeah, they're not like made men or anything, which they're not. They have never claimed to be, but they've been around these neighborhoods, and I think they present an interesting kind of look into it. And I will say one thing before I go. I'm about to jump off. Tommy, can you please email me? I'll drop my email in the box.
Tommy Stiggs at AIM.com. Just jot it, or do I drop it?
You can tell me right now.
Tommy Stiggs at AIM.com. I don't give a shit who has it. I'm not worried about anybody.
Tommy Stiggs at AIM.com.
That's it.
So Joe, what do you think about what's being said right now?
Well, I mean, as far as
Got it, Jeff?
Yeah,
Just
Sammy, the
tell us
poll
what you
thing?
think. No, just in general, we just discussed.
Okay.
Do you think you have the it factor? Are you looking forward to your show? I mean, little things like that.
We're gonna make it have the it factor.
I got to be honest with you. The thing that I'm not prepared for is the hecklers. You know what I mean? Because I noticed that it's not exactly what you say or what you do. Unfortunately, it's what people think of you. That's what's going to mold what they say about you. So if someone doesn't like you, I'm not going to say spin, but they're going to, you know, take your words and, you know, constantly say, oh, well, you said this. Well, what do you think about this? What do you think about this person? I just told you what I think about this person. Well, why are you saying that? What do you think about? It's just, and I don't know if I can handle that
Joe,
much.
I like to say one thing to Joe. The biggest mistake I made when I first started this, it bothered me. Now it doesn't. I ignore Tony. Tony. FBS could say whatever he wants. I don't really care anymore.
Before I go,
forget about these people.
Let me finish this, Jeff. Let me finish. The most important thing right now is that you do your show, put up good quality, and the hell with everything else. That's what it comes down to.
I'm going to jump off and I'll give Joe this wisdom. And I told him this, and I'll tell anyone that gets into this. I've been on the internet since 2009. I've been on Twitter, YouTube, all this shit. I have had some vile things said about me.
Yes.
It's never affected me. All I've done is grow further and further. And you have to remember, Joe, these are losers in their house that want you to acknowledge they exist because nobody else gives a shit about them. So you know what? There are two things I'm not going to do. Acknowledge they exist, and I'm going to laugh because 20 out of 20 would change their lives with me. It's that simple. And that's why, for me, I've continued to grow and grow and grow. And for the last 5 years, I've been solely able to support myself off of doing content, which not a lot of people can do. I dictate what I do every day. And for me, I've already won. You think I'm going to care about what some goofy guy says about my hair? I couldn't care less. And when you let him see you sweat, that's the issue you're going to have. If you can get past that, you'll be fine.
And Tom, what do you think of that?
Thank you, guys. I'll talk to you all soon.
Take care, my man.
See ya.
Once again, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
I'll talk to you later, Jeff.
Do you find one of the hardest things, Tom, one of the hardest things doing right now, Joe brought it up, dealing with the people that are just continuous jackasses. And you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, so I had to install like kind of privately a new rule. Listen, I'm like you, Lee. I'm a big free speech guy. You'd be surprised what I leave on the comments. If it's critical, if it's reasonably critical, if it's
I unmuted you, Tom.
Can you? Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
No, I'm sorry. Tommy Stakes.
I'm back, guys.
Okay. So with that said, I've been probably a little too loosey goosey with letting people comment, thinking, oh, free speech, and I want to have engagement with people. If you don't, like, if I check your account and you leave like a vile comment and there's no email, it's not a verified account, I'm deleting it. I'm not going to entertain any idiots anymore. Their goal is just to jam you up. just as long as not slanderous or threatening offline.
Exactly. That's
Anything else is a fair play. Just keep it professional. Again, if somebody says, "Listen, I didn't like your interview with Sammy. You kept wiping your forehead. You look like a fat slob." Blah blah blah. All day long, and I'll keep it and say, "Hey, thank you for your opinion." Because there's always sometimes a morsel of truth that you kind of say, "Wait a second, there's something to learn here," right? I think a lot of other creators can benefit from taking criticism, right? Correctly. But really quickly, but what I won't do is I'm not going to entertain these guys and give energy to people that don't deserve it.
Good. That's perfect.
Tommy Stiggs.
I agree.
I know how you feel about rats, Tommy. What do you think about armchair interviewing Sammy yesterday?
It was incredible. It was incredible. And I got to give credit to Tom. You have to remember, Tom is a different mindset than a street guy. So I have street experience. I remember when all of this happened. I remember what had to take place for things to roll along. And I remember the guys that he came and testified against. He probably would never even give me 5 minutes of his time, but I would go about it in a different way. And I don't know if he would want to be or in that way. He really should, because it really would be good for him.
Yeah.
Does he need it? Tom did what Tom does, and that was incredible. Incredible. He gave us what we needed in that aspect. He wasn't going to challenge him, and I don't think he should. Okay. Does anybody break balls?
I might have asked the A-Light question.
Does anybody break Diane Sawyer's balls? She did, the way she does it. She's a journalist.
Oh, he
right?
did a good interview. The only thing about
perfect interview. I would just press it as a former street guy, I guess you could say. I would just press it in a different way because I saw the impact of it firsthand. So I would maybe ask different questions, and if he wasn't okay with it, I'd rather not take the interview. He could give me 5,000, 10,000. Sammy can give me 5,000, 10,000, and I probably won't take it if he wouldn't answer what I need to be answered.
Ready to go, but they said I don't have to schedule it. Come over a sec.
Yeah, so the A-Light thing, that question I might have asked because it's a public thing on,
acting gangster.
like this type of genre that we're in. I mean, asking about him killing the kid and this and that, that's a little bit different. Everybody's interested to know what happened between him and A-Light. You know what I mean? So
I'm not concerned about him killing the kid. I'm not looking to press him to come clean with that. They're all street guys. The kid that got killed maybe was, maybe wasn't. Maybe was an upcoming street guy. I don't know the guy. But I would just go on the effect of his turning and some question that I would love to have answered. That's all.
No, definitely understand.
What Tom did was incredible.
Okay, let me ask you a question, Tommy. Okay, Tommy. So Sammy will say that he wasn't going to rat, and then all of a sudden he heard John Gotti saying all these horrible things on tape. And the fact of the matter is, there was a lot of horrible things said on tape.
Yes.
What's your opinion of that?
My opinion of that is they know going in that could be your brother, your best friend that's going to do you wrong. You signed up for it. You take it. I think you take it.
So you're saying it's okay?
If you're true Cosa Nostra, you're ready to die for it, get buried for it, or do life in prison for it, regardless of what happens, betrayal or not. It is a life of betrayal.
But if you're true Cosa Nostra, do you talk on tape like that about people?
He did. Yes, but we know going in that you're going to get backdoored. There's no doubt about it. The nuts
was
and
Paul
bolts.
Castellano true? What about Tony Ducks and those guys? Were they true Cosa Nostra? Because they got caught on tape talking about
a lot of them did. You know what gets me? You know what gets me about the tapes, guys? They all know that people have been caught on tape, and they still do it. They don't check properly. They don't bring people in to check for the wires and stuff properly. They get cocky.
That's a whole other topic, but you are 100% correct.
They get cocky and they let this stuff
whether there was tapes or not, the government was not letting up off Gotti's neck. They would have got him for freaking jaywalking if they could. I mean, he was giving them the finger. He was there was no way they were going to allow him. He might have got another. If he beat the last case with Sammy, he'd be back in court again in another 12, 16 months. You know what I mean? Especially with all the people cooperating and whatnot. It just would have been
Hold on, guys.
Impossible for him.
Tom, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I got another minute. I'm gonna go lay down in a minute. But no, so somebody.
Hold on. I want
somebody
to ask you
asked-
something. You sound great. Number one, better than many of the other people of wakes that I got to attend this week. A 66-year-old next door, a 48-year-old, a friend of mine. I got 4 deaths in a week from this shit. You sound very good, and I'm happy to hear that.
Thank you.
Are you, when you do this?
Yeah.
Are you looking at it as from a journalistic point of view, or what? Like, me interviewing someone like that and you interviewing someone like that, totally different aspect. What's the word?
Yeah. So first thing I try to do is, so with these type of interviews, you're not going to do a long form interview, meaning you're not going to go through his whole life story. His whole show is about his life story, right? And he talks about it all the time. So there's nothing he's going to talk about the Rampers, and he's going to talk about Tato. So like, what the worst thing is, and you guys know this, the worst thing is when you interview somebody and they talk about, and I'm not knocking him, but if I had Larry Maz on tomorrow, I don't need to hear about the 17th time how he was with Linda Scarpa. You know what I mean? Like, so number one is I try to look at what's the narrative going to be for the interview that's going to be different than other people, right? Number two, then I look at it like, all right, what's my show really about? Or what do I want my show about? Who watches the show? And I feel like the people that watch the show have an appetite for Cosa Nostra related content and tend to be a little bit focused more on the business. Like, again, I looked at it, and people criticize me, but I looked at it, I was interviewing a guy who otherwise would have been a nobody, who was a number 2 man in a $500 million a year organization, who did it through illegal means within the Italian culture. So I just wanted to unpack, like, what you guys, they took over the regime, right? And made changes. One of the big, now I'll tell you right now, managerial, it makes sense for your captains to meet with you every week. It keeps your finger on the pulse. Less chance getting slid on your envelope. You get to spot problems earlier. You get to check out loyalty. There's many reasons by showing your flag or your colors, by meeting with your boss every week. From the business aspect, that makes perfect sense. But to the FBI,
Marley.
the first thing happened to Gambino's because there was captains showing up that didn't even have jackets on or had to brush off the jacket, say, holy shit, Joe or this or that is active still. I didn't know that. Getting their license plates, following them, and getting to their hustles. So I'm obsessed. I'll tell you where I am like keenly obsessed is where the axiom of business and being Cosa Nostra comes in and trying to unpack what makes sense and what doesn't.
Right. So Sammy thinks that's wrong.
100%.
I think, like you, in some respects, that I love the business aspect of what John was doing, meeting all your managers. You know what I mean? So I do this every day. I have a management meeting every single day. I need to see all my key people every single day and go over what's going on. So, yes. But then again, it's not corporate America, right? It's the street. So
Because,
I don't know.
Sammy was, he was the ultimate nice guy. He was the consummate mafioso. Those tapes that we see when he's in front of the Ravenite kissing 33 old men as he's walking into it, he's holding the umbrella. The cameraman's there. He's pushing the cameraman away. He's pointing at him. He's cursing at him. He didn't do that, Sammy.
Nope.
He didn't want to be there. He didn't want to be around all those guys. Then why were you there hugging and kissing these guys? You'd have thought. I would have told him, look, don't even look at me when I walk in this place.
I don't think John could have demanded that Sammy be there. I think Sammy could have convinced John that I shouldn't be here. But I'm dealing with these guys one-on-one every day. But if something happens to you, at least I'm out of the spotlight. He could have.
He loved that spotlight too.
One
You
second.
can see it now. He was a quiet person. He didn't want to be a star.
I know.
Why is he on YouTube?
Well, because
You
why?
get money a ton of different ways, off camera.
Because he can make money on this. Why would he do it?
Because he wants to be a star. That's why. That's the whole.
He needs to earn. He needs to earn.
And he can't earn a single Bonanno? Okay.
No.
I can't criticize him for what he's doing. Right?
Yeah. He has the right. One second, guys. He has the right to be on here making money.
I didn't say he didn't have the right to do it. I just said he wants to be a star. Simple as that.
And whether we like it or not, he has become a star.
This is after the dust clears, and it's rightfully so in his mind. It's the right thing to do. If I was him, I think I would probably do the same thing. There's a market for him rather than
But
selling.
guys, told you. Wait, if someone told
Yeah,
you
but
20 years,
if he killed
One
your
second, Tom.
father or
wait,
your
wait,
uncle,
Joe, one
how
second,
would
one
you
second,
feel?
Joe, 1 second.
Mhm.
Okay, if someone told you 25 years ago that Sammy was gonna reinvent himself and be on here, what would you have said to them? Just think about it.
It's a whole world
Nobody-
we didn't know back then.
But he was the most hated man in the world, and he's on here like nothing ever happened. That to me is the story more than
Well,
anything.
he should really, really do some. He should clear the air with what he did and all the people that he put away. He should go over the trials that he testified at. I want to hear him talk about him coming to Newark and testifying against Bobby Cabert. I want to hear him say it. I want to know how it went, what it felt like. You went in there. Why'd you come in here to Newark and testify against this guy? Were you obligated because of your agreement, or did you just want to put 36 guys away?
That's a great question. That's
you know what I
great.
mean?
Yeah.
Now, this is, I'm sensitive to this part. You know, you guys might have a different view or aspect of it, but I remember it so clearly and the impact of it locally.
So you think he may not? You think that he may not have even had to come here and do that?
I don't know. We want to hear it.
Yeah.
Sammy's got to blow it up more. Blow it up more. Tell us everything. You're telling us stories. Tell us everything. Why did you go to, I don't know, Hasbrook Heights? Why did you go to Belleville? Why did you go to Newark and testify? Why did you go to the boxing commission? Did they make you do it? Because he went to the boxing commission also.
He addressed it. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but on the Mafia States of America, Michael kind of said the same thing. If you kind of had a hard on for Gotti, why don't you just limit it to Gotti? He said they came to him and they kind of had a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
So whatever was in that like 2-year window, he testified.
Do it.
Outside of that window, he didn't. I can't confirm or confirm that. But I believe that was his explanation. Not justifying it anyway, but I think that was his rationale.
So if you ever get a chance to do it again, Tom, get a list of questions from your followers.
Oh no, listen. I think this is going to be I would be shocked if I don't have him on again.
I agree. I know.
Like this is going to be a catalyst. I think already got like 300 subs already, and it's growing. So as a show, that's where subs kind of come into play. You go to an interview. Hey, I got 50,000 subs. 70. Their ears rise up and makes it to get a better interview. I'm happy about that. It was a 6 made man that I interviewed. I did my research, and I'm the only person to ever interview 6 inducted members. So
when these other creators criticize you, they're just blowing smoke. Because this is what you do, and this is how you do it, and this is how it works, and this is what we want. This is what we want from you, your aspect of doing this.
Well, I hate to say this, and I don't want to knock anybody, but like this was one, and maybe I'm naive, and maybe Lee can maybe shed some light because Lee kind of understands how some people think. I thought this was one of those things that was going to be like, you know what, Tom, maybe didn't ask this question. Or you know what, Tom, I don't like you. Or you know what, Tom, you're a jerk off. But you know what? That was pretty fucking badass. I'll give you that. Or hey, Tom, I'll give you this one. Good work. Good work, you students. You know what I mean? But one creator actually was less offensive. Another one, I don't know. I just was shocked at what I heard, what he said. I didn't hear it firsthand. But Lee, what do you think? Why do you think they couldn't give me a mulligan on this one? Even my biggest detractors, in your opinion.
Oh my God.
Because some people just like to hate. But what it comes down to is this. We have people that watch our shows. And if they don't want rats interviewed, then they don't have to watch.
Yeah.
We have the right, these are our shows. We have the right to put on who we want. And if people don't like who we're platforming, don't watch. But the most important thing for the people that do watch us, they want entertainment. They want good entertainment. Sammy's good entertainment. People can say what they want, but to this day, my highest rated is Jimmy Calandra. Whether you like Jimmy Calandra or not, he's still got 30,000 people to watch my video, my interview with him. It was a short interview too, But the fact of the matter is, some people just have it. Some people want to see these guys. They want to see Gene Barillo. They want to see John A. Light. They want to see Jimmy Calandra. Whether you like it or not, you can shake your head all you want, Tommy. But the fact of the matter is, whether you like it or not, people want to hear what they have to say.
Gene Barillo's
and
talking about
why
dealing
they
drugs
rat.
and robbing old ladies in his neighborhood. For me, anyway.
That's what the Gottis didn't deal drugs?
You know what I'm talking about. The way he
But
anyway,
they
you can
all
defend
deal
him all you want.
drugs.
Do whatever you want to do.
They
You
all
can
deal
defend
drugs.
him all you want, and that's quite all
I'm
right.
not. I'm not defending nobody. I'm telling you who I would interview.
He has nothing to
I'm
offer.
telling you who I interview. They
He was a street guy. I know many guys like him.
all
So
dealt
half of them
drugs.
got killed.
You, okay.
No, I'm
Okay,
not.
but let's remember.
Yeah, sorry.
Let's remember who went to prison for 25 years for dealing drugs. You know, so
Who did?
Who?
Sammy?
quite a few people.
Oh,
You know,
And I'm no fan, and I'll burn him in an incinerator if I can.
Yeah. Let me.
You know, guys know how I feel about the drug thing. I lost
I
one
know
too
how
many.
you feel.
I lost two
I
last
know-
week. You know how I feel about it.
I know
Tom.
how you do.
Yes, sir.
Tom, before you go, okay,
Yeah.
there was a guy in the comments, right, that, I guess he's being a wise guy, and he said that, why am I doing a show? Because I said Sammy's looking to be famous. Can you explain real quick how it came about that I got on YouTube?
Yeah.
Well,
So
let me explain it. Let me just explain this, okay? I got a call from him on a Saturday at 2:00 in the afternoon. Would you like to come to my house and hang out or whatever? I go to his house. 5 hours after that phone call, I'm on a live with him. Did I ever tell you I'm doing this? I want to do that? No. I got popped on the show. People started liking me. I became friends with you. Here I am. I have no clue why I'm doing shows.
But we're gonna do.
It wasn't in
shows.
my brain. I wasn't thinking about
but
it.
it was all organic. And if anything, I encourage you to do it because I see Joe as like a guy that kind of grew up in that area, didn't get like caught up in it, but also has enough insight, but is also like a regular guy who's intelligent, you know?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yep.
Hey guys, I
Gonna
gotta
go
jump. I
well,
gotta lay
Joe.
down. Lee, thank you for having me on. And
Hey, thank you so much.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thanks, guys. Ciao.
Feel
Feel
better,
better,
bro. I'll
feel
talk to
better.
you later, man. Thank you.
Okay.
Corona's
So
no
let me
joke,
show you
man.
something. I'm going to show you something right here. Someday Lee will realize Gene is a joke, a nobody. But
I'm
John
not a fan.
O'Master, are you a joke? Are you a nobody? So who
Lee.
are we to determine what people are? It's
Lee.
basically what I'm saying.
Lee, don't play into it. Do your
No,
thing.
what I'm yeah.
If that's what
Yeah,
you feel is right, you do it.
No, I don't feel it's right, but listen, I don't feel like anything these guys did was right.
Yeah,
I don't
sure.
feel drug dealing's right. I don't feel like murder's right. But what I'm trying to say is they all do it. We can't just say one or two of them.
I
They
know.
all do it. These guys are you. It's like you said, Tommy, last week when you were here, the first show you were here.
Yeah.
You said the thing that you hated about the mob the most is that in 1970 they started flooding the streets with drugs.
Killed.
And it destroyed a lot of lives. So we
Many
live in this world of a fake reality in our head about gangsters. They were dealing drugs and they were flushing the cities with drugs.
I
And
know
here's
that.
what we got.
I agree
so
with
you
that.
said that, Tommy.
I
And,
agree with you. And
you
you're
made
right,
me-
100%.
And you
When
made
it's
me
straight
think
up in your
about it.
face. But they're kind of bragging about it like it's a badge of honor almost. I don't see any remorse.
Yeah, it's not a badge of honor. But
Let
let me ask you a question.
Listen, the way what's his name? Gene Barillo does it, he was trying to make himself out to be a tough guy. He was, and he is, and I'll give him that, but I don't know.
I
You know how
understand
feel
what you're
about
saying.
it.
I don't know. You explain because I know someone who grew up with him and is friends with him. And honestly, I asked the same question. And you know what I got?
What?
That what he's saying is true.
Yes, it's true. He is what he is. There's no doubt about it. I'll give him credit for owning up to being, what he is. There's no doubt about it. I give him credit for being, but you can't glorify it. Do you think he's glorifying it? I don't know. You think he's pushing it in your face? Do you think he still thinks he's a gangster? What? I don't know. The way I see it is it's just a boisterous guy about what he did and bragging about it almost on those shows. I think he ruined Daylight show.
Like Sammy, like Sammy does. Sammy brags about it all the time.
Exactly.
I think he would eventually probably, I don't know. I mean, who knows what would have happened, but
Well,
It's
you
not
know,
happening now.
how I feel about guys that went bad, and you guys know how I feel about drugs. So I may get a little, it may bother me a little bit, and I may get off track on it, and may not be able to spit out exactly what I'm thinking and feeling because it's close to home. You know what I mean?
Tommy,
Thank you.
you know what you
Steve.
remind
I
me of?
didn't think you being a wise guy.
Tommy, you remind me of one of these guys that should have been back in the 50s when gangsters, it was a whole different ball game. They were loan sharks.
They tell me I'm
They
a
were loan
throwback.
sharks. They ran betting houses.
Yes.
They ran prostitution. They, and that stuff. And then they got greedy. Drugs make them a
Yes.
lot of money, real quick. I mean, they deal drugs and they make so much money real quick.
I know.
And they didn't want to do it the slow way, or chasing someone, lend somebody money, and then they have to chase them down for 2 months to get their money or decide whether they're going to break their legs. I mean,
I'm in a different generation as a younger guy, I guess. I don't know.
yeah. No,
I don't know. But they've been doing it forever, Lee, right? They've been bringing in drugs forever, right? It just wasn't so front and center. It wasn't so front
they
and
have.
center.
They have forever. Exactly
But
right.
it wasn't so front and center. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And let's not forget prohibition with
I know.
alcohol and stuff. And alcohol destroys a lot of lives too. So
I know. Lucky
it's-
Luciano, I do know. They were in it forever, and we are unfortunately responsible for flooding the country, like Lee said. I said last week. You know what I mean? It's true, but it wasn't.
And who
so
was and who was a bigger drug dealer than Lucky Luciano?
I know.
Yeah, he was as big as it gets. I mean, he died. He died literally the day after he picked up a bunch of drugs. So, he was in it to the very end. Until the day he died, he was into. And when he went back to Italy, what did he do? He opened up a gateway from Italy, pushing drugs into this country. So,
So, okay, back to some of the topics that you opened up with, if you want to touch on them.
Yeah, no, I like this topic. We're talking about.
You're good. You're good. I don't want anybody to
Well,
show
you know
off
what it
track,
is?
You know what I mean?
No, it's not, because we're talking about
Yeah.
there's like we romanticize these exciting guys. Let's face it. It takes balls to do what they do, because any day you wake up, someone will put a bullet in your head.
But it's not just
that
balls,
simple.
Lee. For some people, it's for survival. I know I was involved in it because of survival. I know my mother didn't have heat in the house. I know I had to help. She didn't condone what I was doing, but I did it out of survival. Like you said, I'm probably a throwback to a whole different generation. But
And then Joe probably had the opportunity where he could have ran with these guys. Is that right,
yes,
Joe?
of course, absolutely.
If you
I'm
wanted
sure.
to run with these guys, you could have.
I'm sure.
And it's those decisions we make,
Decisions we make. This is
But I
correct.
got lucky because the guys that I was dealing with were older, and they were kind of pushing me in a different direction.
And that's good.
But not really, because they're saying one thing, but what's actually happening is another thing. In the sense of, like, hey, don't do this, but hey, if you do this, this is what
with
you
us.
get.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like,
This
yeah,
is
but
the way you do it, or do it with us, right?
How
Exactly.
active do you think the families are right now?
very active.
Why not?
That's
Why wouldn't
I
they be?
heard that too.
Why wouldn't they be?
I just
Because,
recently heard
well,
that
here's why they wouldn't be, because they're not writing newspaper articles every day about them.
Why
If
would
they
it
were
die?
in the newspaper every day, everybody would say, oh, you know what? They're back. But no, there's no bodies on the street anymore.
That's smart.
When do you hear about guys getting arrested? 11 guys, you hear about it, you know what I mean? But I think what's happening is it's a whole different ball game now. I mean, there's so much history to learn from, as far as like what to do and what not to do. But there's still guys, I mean, everywhere I go on Staten Island, I'm not going to say they're
Why wouldn't
active
they be right?
guys because I don't know what they're doing, but there's known guys that are around. So
There's people around. Why would it's organized crime? It'll be crime forever. It's just you're doing life on the installment plan, and it doesn't end well. It's very basic.
as long as there's money around, they're going to be around.
and a
So
lot of it now is on the internet. I mean, these guys are getting more and more clever, and they have to have educated people around them. Then again, a lot of times it's drugs too.
and then how big is the focus on organized crime in America compared to other terrorism, and there's all, like there's homegrown terrorism and shit like that. So
Well, you don't need a big focus anymore. It doesn't take much manpower to take down wise guys anymore because there's cameras everywhere, there's surveillance everywhere, there's dry snitches. If there's 10 guys in the crew, 6 of them are dry snitching. It's a mess.
And the government can put charges on you and have you put in prison for almost nothing. And it's not like it used to be.
Two guys makes it a conspiracy, right? 2 guys makes it a conspiracy, and that's it. That's 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, they just put a task force together that they just started, and they're gonna only go after domestic criminals. Think about that. So they're going to determine who the domestic criminal is. That's kind of scary. Yeah, that's kind of scary that they can make people into criminals.
Tommy, quick question:
Yes,
Are
sir.
you? And you don't have to answer. Did you marry an Italian woman?
Of course.
Right. So that's like everyone in my family, like out of all my cousins, I'm the only one that married an Italian woman.
It's going to be difficult.
And I think what's happening is when that happens, like my sister-in-law married a Mexican guy. So great guy. Mexicans are very similar to Italians. Yes. From, like they really are. They're Catholic, the family, they're hard workers, they're just the immigrants of today, basically, that we were 100 years ago.
Yes.
But I think now her son is going to be raised part Italian and part Mexican. So he might not understand, you know what I mean? Like what is really going on with, the families and everything.
Cross culture is tough regardless of who it is. Irish marrying Italian, Irish not marrying Irish, German not marrying German. You lose a lot of traditions. That's how we lose all our traditions. I'm not prejudiced against any other ethnic group. I just felt like,
but it's a truth though.
It flows with me, right?
And the big thing was when the Irish and Italians started marrying. It became a very big thing in the 70s and 80s, and that did a lot. You're absolutely right. It did a lot to the culture. I mean,
that could change the Irish culture, or that could change the Italian culture. Culture is incredible. What's better than our cultures? I don't care what it is.
That's why a lot of these.
I don't care what it is. Culture is incredible.
They married their cousins, how they used to do it. They married family members. They didn't realize the problems it would cause if they did that, but they wanted to keep the bloodlines all in that same family. So
that's extreme. Cultural and that's extreme, but cultural, I think it works well. You can understand the person, I think, a little more. You know that Christmas Eve, you know what's going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I remember when I was a kid, I went to Arthur Avenue. It was 4 to 5 blocks long. You go to Arthur Avenue now, you're lucky if you have 1 block left. And that's culture. That's just culture changing. People don't even know what fresh mozzarella is no more.
Culture changing. 100%
we used to watch them take the mozzarella balls and do them with their hands and stuff, and super sod and all that. Really, it's hard to find that product even right now.
That's right.
It's not like it used to be where every block you can find mortadella. Now, how hard it is to find mortadella now?
I will tell you this, where I'm at, Essex County, New Jersey, by Newark, we still have pretty good.
Yeah, so my brother's full Italian, okay, like through and through, like me. So he lives in Vegas. So he basically grew up there. Now, ask him about who is in the Colombo crime family or the Gambino. He'll look at you like you got 6 heads. He's like, who the fuck are you talking about here? John Gotti. He might know John Gotti, but he's not like us where we're, I live in the neighborhood. So it's like, hey, what's up? He doesn't understand how it is. And I wonder how much that plays into it too.
Nicolo's is still there. Whoever Gazoo 72, Nicolo's is definitely still there in Montclair. Yes. I'm still in the middle of this. I'm still
wait a minute. One thing is, if we're businessmen, so what you're saying is in your neck of the woods, Lee, you need some good mozzarella, you need some good Italian bread. Maybe we should open up a deli over there.
Probably. What I miss? You know what I miss in Texas more than anything? A damn Kaiser roll. you know,
that-
or a Kaiser roll, or say fresh mozzarella, and you know, stuff that you don't see.
When's your birthday?
October.
Oh, okay. So if you can
Yeah.
wait till October, I'll send you some mozzarella and a couple of rolls. I'll send you some prosciutto bread.
You know what I really, you know, I used to go to Peppino's underneath the L in the Bronx, right at Mount Vernon would turn into the Bronx. As soon as the L starts there was a place called Peppino's Pizza. It's not there no more. And it was there for 40 years.
James,
So,
what words is James taking back? What, did he criticize me before?
No, he's joking.
I
What's
take
up,
nothing to
Andy
heart,
Ray
guys.
Bundy?
I take nothing to heart. What you get from me is pretty real. I don't have to remember any of it because it comes right out of my brain. So,
And then when it comes out, it doesn't come out exactly how he intends for it to come out, but it comes out, and I guess you got to love him for that, right?
I guess.
So Grant Calder says I have a conclusion. Tommy Stiggs is a good guy. I agree with him here.
Thank you, sir.
And Grant, and just so you know, Grant, I agree with him also. I was just given a hypothetical, you know, so that's basically it.
The same thing with you as I'll say with Tom. Put on your shows the things that you need to be on your shows.
Yeah.
Whoever you feel. Think of yourself as Diane Sawyer in some ways. You know what I mean? Do what is going to work for you. I'm never going to criticize you. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to enjoy it. I'll bite my tongue, but I'll give you the respect. Same thing with Tom.
Okay, so listen, I got to take my dogs out for a ride tonight. So I'm going to
I got
ask
to take my
Joe.
dog out too.
Joe,
I got to go watch high school wrestling.
Yes.
tomorrow you got a show on. What time is your show going to be on?
Well, I got to be honest with you. I haven't set a time yet. I will, because truthfully, there's like content creators that are friends of mine, and I really don't want to. I think it's counterproductive if we all do shows at the same time, because, you know, then for just the reason of I want to watch your show, Lee, and I want you to
I'm
watch.
going to drop a video. Joe
Right,
invited me
so-
to a show tomorrow, so I'm going to be on your show tomorrow,
Mhm.
and I'm just going to drop a video tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll get you the time, probably around this time. I got to talk to my engineer, that if he's available, because, you know, I hired an engineer.
Tommy, are you going to be on Joe's show tomorrow?
Absolutely.
You'll be
I'm
on.
all of it. If anybody's on my YouTube page, I'm going to post a video shortly of the neighborhood I'm in right now, and you're going to get an old school feel of it.
I was looking at your page.
I'm not ready to do live stuff like this yet, but, you know, eventually maybe I will. I just post clips of nonsense around Newark and Belleville and shit like that. But
Thank you, NB. You keep doing what you're doing, Tommy. It's going to help you. You know what I mean? Because once people start seeing you,
I enjoy it. It's more so enjoyment for me, actually.
right?
And people can relate to the way I'm living right now. Like Lee says, I'm probably a throwback to 2 generations ago, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, you're 52. You look like you're 72. So you
Watch
got
it
the
now.
whole.
Watch it now, buddy.
You know what I miss? I remember, you know, I got in New York City in 1976, and my sister used to work in the garment district, the Furrier district.
Mhm.
And I remember going there, and you would see gangsters on the street just standing there, and you could always spot a gangster. And you know, they would just be standing there like they were looking for trouble or somebody doing the wrong thing. Now,
76.
forget it.
Oh my God.
That's gone. You remember the garment district in 76?
I remember dropping on a train from here going to 42nd Street. That was our playground.
Yeah.
Deep
Well, that's
shows.
where
You
I
have to remember,
worked in
I'm
Times
only
Square.
12 minutes from that area, 10 minutes from that area. So we would jump a train and jump right
Yeah,
into Manhattan. Bunch
I
of
think
kids
the
just
worst
running
thing.
around.
I think the worst thing they ever did was clean it up because
Oh my God. That's
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
sorry, man. It had a feel to it that's not there no more.
It did.
I mean, I worked there for 2 years.
You're right.
It had a feel that you just never going to get again.
I
We
do
were
like
so
it now.
lucky to-
Lee, I do
Yeah.
like it now. I got friends on Pearl Street. I got a couple of friends on 25th and 8th. You know, 42nd is much different than what it used to be, but I love the city. I loved it. On
You remember you remember all the little whorehouses the mob ran down on 42nd
God.
Street around there?
Crazy.
I-
So I was probably 12, and guys from here are like, go see a guy at such and such a place. I'm 12.
Well, see, when the
13.
mob, here's the difference. When the mob ran them, you'd go upstairs, and not that I ever been to one, but you'd go up the stairs, and there was a bar in there. There's always a bar. You sit at the bar, and then the girls would come out and line up, and they were. And this was before crack started, the epidemic.
That's in the 80s, then 80s, right?
Yeah, that's when it started to go. That's when
Yeah.
everything changed with the prostitution. When crack came out, totally, it put these very low level people that would rob your pocket for nothing. But back in the 70s was totally different than the 80s. And
Early 80s was the transition.
Yeah, 84 is when crack really started hitting. 84. It was like,
So I was only in my teens, but enjoying the ride. And guys over here knew guys over there, and they're like, you know, if you get jammed up, go see such and such, or if you guys want to do this, go see such and such at such and such.
yeah.
Crazy.
And then AIDS came along in the 80s. So you had crack and AIDS, and that just destroyed the streets. It made it so very dangerous. I mean, when crack,
like you said,
when
I'm
crack and
52,
AIDS
but
came
I
out.
got the life of an 80-year-old in me. I should be a mess right now.
So you're
So if
saying
you're-
that you were down there, you know, messing
Yeah, a lot
around?
of things, man. A lot of things. And then
Like,
we
if
went
you
to
watch-
Scores. And then we went to
Yeah,
Scores
Sc-
later on. Scores was on, I think, 61st. 61st? I think Scores was on 61st.
So do you know the guy that ran that Scores?
Lee, I'm not going to get into all that stuff, but, we frequented.
Well, I worked for him up in Somers.
Yeah, it was good
You
stuff.
know, just so you do know.
Good
And
stuff, good stuff.
yeah, and
stuff.
they owned all those places. And the girls at Scores were not hags.
No.
I
They weren't
mean-
crackheads. They were not crackheads,
Ooh.
that's for sure.
Those girls made their money the money those girls made.
Lee, was that 61st?
Yeah.
That was on 61st?
Yeah. And then they had other places like Scores too.
And
But,
then
you gotta-
downtown 23rd, way down
Yeah.
23rd, the sex club, what the hell was the name of that place? The Vault.
How do you know all these places, Tommy?
I was everywhere, Joe. I was everywhere.
There
Everywhere.
was a place in Manhattan called the Bottoms because none
don't
of the
remember that.
chicks wore bottoms.
Oh, I remember the Vault and, of course, Scores. The Vault was a filthy place. Disgusting. But, we went there to break bulls. The owners were regular, regular guys. You know what I mean? What went
but
on
unless
inside
you-
was just a business.
Yeah, but if you went in there and fucked around, you would come
No,
out.
I wouldn't. No, we were
That's-
spectators, man. We were
Oh
spectators.
man! And all the
The Vault.
basketball players would show up, the baseball players.
I
You
think
know,
the Vault
guys
was on.
like-
I think the Vault was on 23rd. I'm going to tell you a story. A bunch of us came out of the Vault, maybe 3-4 o'clock in the morning, and these two gay guys were laying in the street, and they wanted to pay my friends $10 to piss all over them. That's how fucking crazy the people were that were there. We'll give you $10, just piss all
I
over
would
them.
have said, give me $30. I'll pee on you 3 times.
But it's there, right? You
Yeah.
saw it. It's there.
Well, that's like Studio 54. I mean, I remember standing at the doorway. I don't know if you remember back then, that big cowboy with the cowboy hat that worked the front door. Did you ever remember that guy?
No.
He was like 6'5" and he was pure muscle. And he was at the front door. He was a big old cowboy. And I was lucky. I got in there a couple times, but it was very hard to get in if you were nobody.
Yeah.
And that's
Even
the
what-
thing.
Yeah, it was hard to get in that place. We had Studio One
then-
over here in Newark. It's kind of
Then you had Roseland. You had these places, and they're all gone now. And that was like what made New York.
my
Yeah,
cousin
but-
was the DJ at Limelight. Unfortunately, he passed away, but he was a DJ at Limelight. So yeah, man, I got a lot of miles on me.
Yeah, and another great thing about Manhattan is, remember when they had all the good delis on every corner? You go in, you get a great roast beef sandwich, a real roast beef sandwich, or and you know what you used to be able to get? You can't get no more? A veal cutlet palm.
No, you gotta
It's
go to
hard
Jersey.
to find.
Gotta come to
it's hard
Jersey.
to
for
find
it.
veal cutlet.
You get that in Jersey right now.
Yep. We're similar with Scores. You know what I mean? You guys used to go to Scores, and I would have Scores in my house every night.
Well, there was another one. There was another one. A guy from Jersey. well, really from Queens owned it. Oh my God, what was the name of it?
Wiggles.
Wiggles, yeah. Vinny Ocean owned it.
Mhm.
Vinny Palermo.
Mm-hmm.
Wiggles there was one in Manhattan, and I think one's in Queens. I think. Sometimes it takes me a minute, but I think there was one in Queens and one in Manhattan.
And you know who else ran those?
Shut it all down.
And you know who else ran those places? The Greeks. They had a couple places in Astoria, Queens, and the Greeks ran those. And same thing. You go in there, you would get top quality as long as you went in there. And people don't realize the Greek had, they didn't have a mafia like the Italians, but the Italians would work with them and have them do stuff in the Greek neighborhoods because there was a lot of money in the Greek neighborhoods.
Hold on, Lee, was Scores on 29? Oh, Blue Eyes is saying Scores on 29th. Was that the first location?
Let
Did
me
he move
see.
up to 61st?
Hold on one second.
I'm not a go looker. So my friend got stabbed there. Oh my God, my friend got killed at Lookers. Got stabbed.
Sorry to hear that, bro. Jeez.
Well, this guy put Lookers up there. My friend Brian got stabbed, killed there. Terrible. I'm not a Google. I don't do the Google thing. I'm just going by memory. I know Scores was on 61st when I used to go. I'm not sure. I guess they started downtown.
Well,
I'm not sure.
You got to remember there were several members still in the village, like the Rawhide and stuff like that, right, Joe?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part.
He's getting snatched.
Okay. So you probably remember the clubs down in the Greenwich Village, like the Rawhide.
No.
That was a bad joke, Joe.
Yeah, I know. Christopher Street used to hang out.
Lee, how long we on and how we looking with the content?
We've had a consistent crowd, not a huge one, but about 150 to 160.
Oh, nice.
And yeah,
Are you satisfied?
You know what it is? That's why I do them earlier because I don't like to interfere with other shows. I know what I'm going to get, but it matters when you're done with the video how much you get. That's more important than anything.
Right.
Yeah, like if I close this down and I'm at 300 to 400 views, then it should get to 2,000 in a day.
All right.
But my videos have been doing great lately. So
guys, I had a good time with you guys.
I appreciate it.
I really enjoyed it.
Okay, I'm gonna let you go, and I'm gonna let.
Come on, you know how to get in touch with me.
Bro, hit me up later about tomorrow.
I definitely will. Yep.
All right, guys.
Okay, guys. Thank you both, and I'm gonna say goodbye to everybody.
Have a good night, guys.
Wendy and everyone in the chat, thank you. But those two guys.
Thank you, Tommy. I appreciate everything.
Looked out.
It,
take care, Tommy.
Talk to you later, bro.
Okay, Joe.
Have a good one, man.
Thank you for showing up, Joe. I appreciate it.
And thank you for having me. All right. Have a good night. I'll talk to you later. All right.
I'm gonna hardwire my computer to speed my that up. But take care, my man.
Have a good one.
Everybody, thank you so much for being here. And we just like to bullshit and talk. And I had a great time. I appreciate everybody that's here, especially the regular guys. This is Marley right here. This is my lab. Beautiful Marley. Come here, Marley. Say hi. Okay. Well, anyway, everybody take care. Thank you so much for being here. And I will probably do a live on Friday. Yeah, I'll definitely be doing a live on Friday. Tomorrow, I'm going to be on Joe's. So make sure you check out Joe's show. Everybody take care and good night. Appreciate it.